All right, good morning, everybody out there in Facebook land. This morning we have another delightful treat coming to you from Florence as we continue on with our explorations of one of my favorite cities in the world today. And we have one of my favorite guides in the world joining us today, my friend Elisabetta Franchetti. Buongiorno, Elisabetta.
Well, I would say buonasera because here it's sera.
It is buonasera.
It is.
Buongiorno to me, buonasera.
Buongiorno, Sarah. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Nice to see that lovely painting behind you also.
I know, because our mutual friend Stacy did this.
Nice. Very nice.
A year ago.
Very nice.
You and I have worked together for quite a number of years, and
I'm going to put this back on, huh? Okay, sorry. I need to put this bit back on.
So I just and I have worked
took it off for a second.
Oh yeah, that's cool. We've worked together for quite a number of years on tours, and she is a local guide. She does mostly Florence, but she also does Tuscany. She has a company called Unusual Tourist with her friend Celeste, who is there somewhere, I think, in the background. Yeah. And they do tours of Florence, but then they also, because they're called Unusual Tourists, one of their values is the same as mine, which is how do we get people to see more of Italy than just the highlight stuff that everybody talks about, because Italy is so much more. So doing the unusual stuff often is the most rewarding. So she's also just an unusual person. So. And I promise not to tease her too much today. So you're going to take us today on a little stroll, just kind of the typical walk.
Exactly.
From, the Duomo to Piazza Signoria. So I'm going to just let you go. Andiamo.
Okay, let me just flip the thing around. It might be a bit wonky here and there. You got to be patient.
Okay. And by the way, people who are watching, if you would like to ask Elisabetta questions, I am going to be monitoring the questions on Facebook. So post in the comments and she will answer.
Here we are. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, and it looks gorgeous there.
Doesn't it? So first thing first, you should be saying to me, Happy New Year, Elisabetta.
Oh, it's Dante D, isn't it?
It's Dante D, which, hello. One, it's Dante D, and if we were doing this in 1750, it would be New Year's Day. So, buon anno nuovo, Sara.
Buon anno nuovo, Elisabetta. I had forgotten. I knew it was this week, but I completely forgot.
Yeah, you're not the only one who forgets all these things. And it's also Dante D, so there's a lot of celebrations going on with Dante. And if you go online, you'll see there's a lot of connections also I saw with New York and stuff like that, and events going on. So there's a lot going on, virtual stuff going on today in Florence. But we're going to go to the non-virtual. And I will call this the 5 o'clock in the morning tour, because what you will see is Florence, 5 o'clock in the morning on a, normally this is what it would look like in 5 o'clock in the morning. 2019, 2018, okay? Because there's very few people floating around, but being that it's Dante D, there's a bit more than usual. How's that?
Well, that actually was why I was surprised when we started this, that there was another guy with a camera on a gimbal next to you. So that's why.
Yeah.
Okay, now I get it.
So now I'm going to start walking around and show you a bit what the city is like these days, these unusual days. Here's the Baptistry. Very, very beautiful. And they're actually doing restoration work inside. So, if I'm not mistaken, they're working on the mosaics. And there you have. Was it like this last time you came?
No, it wasn't actually. They had just finished the exterior. Well, maybe that was even a couple years ago now. Time just doesn't make any sense.
Okay, no.
I saw you in September. So
we saw each other in September, exactly. Yeah. And here's the Duomo. Look at the light today. Isn't it beautiful? The light is fantastic. And you might hear a bit of wind now, because as we all know, this is the windy side. And look at that horse. It's packed with people.
Packed with people?
Millions of people at this time in this spot. And look, there are the gates of paradise. Is this working? Yeah, there they are. There's two people in front, and that's it. And copies of Lorenzo Ghiberti's Gates of Paradise. Oops, I'm not using my glasses. Okay. Tell me if there's anything specific that you want to see, do, whatever.
I think you should talk about whatever you feel like talking about.
Well, one thing I want to make a comment on is this, that, you know, in the 1300s, when they were working all this, you would have had, so I'm going to take a picture, I'm going to show you the beach again. You would have had hundreds of people working here. This would have been really noisy. Wait, this thing, it would have been really noisy, really busy. There would have been loads of activity. Because in the 1300s, Florence is one of the most populated cities in Europe. And it's full of laborers because the city is building the bell tower, they're working on the cathedral, they're working on Palazzo Vecchio, they're working on Ponte Vecchio, the walls, plus Santa Croce, Santa Maria Novella. And what is so surprising is the lack of people. I think in the history of the city, whether it be Second World War, First World War, the plague, you would have never had seen a city as empty as this. Does that make sense? The comment. And
yeah.
It's not because of the lack of tourists. I mean, yeah, okay, we are in a pandemic and there's no tourists, but it's because there are no citizens in this part of town. Hence, you don't see a lot of people on a normal day as you walk around in the center. How's that? Is that pretty? I can't see much. Wait,
That is beautiful.
I'm looking at you very big, but I'm not seeing what I'm showing. So let me just fiddle with that. Obviously, it wouldn't be Florence if you didn't have this going on. And there it is. And but another comment I would like to make is also thinking of travel. The pandemic and the cities as we see them today and the lack of people traveling leads you to reflect on the purpose of travel. Travel is about going to other places, discovering other cultures, seeing other things, seeing how people lived, no? Understanding differences, but also similarities. And I hope that the pandemic, in a way, allows us or makes us reflect on how we travel and maybe appreciate much more the possibilities that we have when we get to travel, and be more careful when we observe things, and you know, the beauty of these extraordinary sights. You missed it, Sarah.
Oh yeah, you know I do. I'm both delighted to see you and see it, and also sad because I miss it and I miss you both.
Yeah.
It's one of
so,
those.
Shall we make a little comment on this beautiful building?
Please do.
Okay, so the Cathedral of Florence, the Duomo, was started in the late 1200s over a pre-existing church, Santa Reparata. And as I mentioned earlier, in the early 1300s, this is one of the wealthiest, most populated cities in Europe. The wealth of the city came from banking and from merchants, textile merchants. And Florentines used to supply the wealthiest sectors of European society. So they would supply kings, cardinals, and further beyond Europe. So it was always a city connected to luxury goods. The city is extremely wealthy. And these cathedrals are mirroring, in a way, the power and might of these cities, because you have to think, this building took 140 years to build. It's numerous generations of masons. Think of the money invested, because this is about resources, and they're investing fortunes for generations and for decades on these extraordinary buildings. And why are they doing so? Because it is a mirror of the might, the power, and the strength of the nation. Because another element we have to bear in mind, sorry, my glasses are falling. Another element that we have to bear in mind is that these were city-states. And Siena, Florence, Pisa, Arezzo, oops. You lost me, haven't you?
Nope, I can hear you fine. I just
technical
muted myself
problem.
because my kids got up and they're making noise.
Can you hear me, Sarah? The microphone fell.
Yes, I can.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. So all these cities are competing among each other on who has the most beautiful cathedral, the most beautiful buildings, because these were the attracting poles of the time. Think of pilgrims, think of merchants traveling from one city, or artists traveling from one city to the other to see the wonders that they are creating in these various cities. And this is an important element to keep in mind when you observe such extraordinary buildings and capture the sense of them and the purpose behind them, which is religious, obviously, but it's also connected to a nation. Do you want to say something? I'm going to move around.
Yeah, no.
Beyond.
So the Duomo was, at the time, this was the largest church ever built. So, I mean, that's one of the things that's kind of, I think, even to this day, the scale of the Duomo surprises people. But when you go back to thinking about the 1300s, there was nothing like it, was there? Nothing even close.
No. But also think of this. Now, think of these, Siena trying to create the largest church of Christendom, Florence then attempting to create the largest church of Christendom. But there's a competition going on among these city-states on who has the biggest, who has the most extraordinary artist, who has the most innovative techniques. And the problem with the Duomo will be, and I'm coming here because I want to show you Brunelleschi's dome from this perspective. The problem with the Duomo will be that as they are working on it from 1296 on, in between, or let's say in the 1300s, you have the epidemic of the Black Death. And in that time, in 1348, something like more than 50% of the population will die. And among the dead, the people who are working on these buildings. And the city, after the plague, will continue working on the Duomo and will manage to consecrate it in 1436. In between these two dates, a teeny little change of project. We need to make it bigger because the original design was that of creating something a tad smaller. The problem with the new design of the Duomo will be, how are we going to cover the drum? The drum being what the dome is built on, no? That octagonal section where you see the beautiful window there. So
I appreciate, Elisabetta, that you walk down a street that is full of people working with hammers and stone, because it sounds like they're still building it.
No, wait, I'm going to show you something where they are still working on the cathedral, because this is work in progress still today, yeah? I mean, these are buildings to which the city is dedicated still today. And the problem with the cathedral will be covering and creating a dome that will be the largest dome of the world. And the problem was technology. And this could have been an extremely embarrassing situation, because the largest church of Christendom would have had the largest hole in the world. But instead, Brunelleschi manages to find a solution and create the dome with an innovative technique that he understands from observing the Pantheon in Rome. So a self-raising structure and a self-raising dome. The mask makes it very difficult to breathe. So let me move on. You have anything? You want to say anything? Can I move on?
You can
Isn't
move on.
Pretty?
Absolutely. It is.
Look at
It
the
is
blue
very
sky.
beautiful.
The lights
Yeah,
these days, it's so beautiful.
Okay, explain to me what it smells like in Florence right now, because that's what I love about this time of year.
Well, in this moment, it doesn't smell. Well, I have this mask on, so it doesn't smell that much. I did smell eau de Florence yesterday, because I was in a little alley and there was that characteristic sewage smell. That's, I think, echo. This is the hammering, the noise that you were hearing. And this is this is the workshop of the Opera del Bombo. And what they're doing is they're creating copies in marble for elements that will be substituted on the cathedral itself. You hear the noise?
You know, in all the years I've walked by that little spot there, I don't know I've ever seen so many people working in there.
No, it's these days it's quite full of people. But you will recognize the statues. They are the same statues that they were working on when you were here last, I'm sure. But here they're also working on architectural elements. Yeah, I think these are all apprentices. And look, there's actually a woman. How cool is that?
So are you finding that because there's nobody around, no tourists, that the city is taking time to do some restorations?
I think the restorations were a project already. You know, we are in Italy, and it's not that because there's a pandemic, we have the time to, we have the capacity of changing, I think. I don't want to be overly critical. Ooh, let's take advantage. I think these are all projects that were already in place.
Oh, my favorite bookshop.
Yeah. And look, this is another very beautiful viewpoint. Wait, let me see if I can get this. With the tower, the cathedral. Isn't that pretty? And here's your favorite bookshop, the Paperback Exchange that is still active, working. I've taken books there a couple of weeks ago.
I'm so glad to hear they're still doing okay.
Yeah, it's changed. Yeah. It's changed ownership, but it's the same philosophy. It's the same logic. And here we are in the alleys of Florence. So I was mentioning this was one of the most populated cities in Europe, and you have to think that the city was surrounded by walls, so you would have had a very dense urbanization, or an area in which you would have a very dense number or a very dense population. I don't know how to say this. You are an architect, help me out.
Very dense population, yes.
Yeah.
You had it.
Thank you. And had you visited Florence in the 1300s, you would have seen a lot of these buildings, a lot of towers, because you had something like 150 towers in the city, the Brown Building, okay? And wealthy Florentines lived in towers. Then the next step in the evolution of fancy living quarters is the tower house, where the volumes of the building have extended. So it's a bit more comfortable and less connected to paranoia. Sorry, that's a personal comment, as the tower is.
Well, but your point is correct, though, because the tower house was built specifically to be a defensive structure.
Exactly, exactly. And, you know, the paradox of Florence in my mind is, sorry, I'm fiddling with this thing. The paradox of Florence is that while the city is building all these extraordinary buildings, they are becoming influential throughout Europe and so forth. Internally and politically, there's havoc because families are fighting each other, there's feuds, there's vengeances, there's civil war, hence this protective need of the tower. Look, I love this. This is one of my favorite shops. It's laces and buttons. And it's so beautiful. And
that is the little part of old Italy that I miss so much, because I feel like those little kind of merceria shops are going out of business, and I love them so much.
Mm. And look, here you see, I love that. Modern day graffiti. And here is how you read the city, because behind the stucco, the plaster, the stone showing us what this building used to be, no? Showing us the structure of the medieval tower house. And a thing that I'm going to have a really hard time with when we start working again is I've never had such clean hands as in this last year, because I'm always disinfecting them. But the thing that blows my mind is the precision of the stonework. Look at that. Wow. You can't put a pin in between these stones. Well, there you can. But look at this, look at these lines. No? And you think, okay, some mason in the 1300s did this, some stone cutter actually, and we can still touch his work. And it's so beautiful. I find it really poetic and exciting because, you know, you're touching the work of some anonymous guy of the 1300s, and his workmanship is still, we can still see it. It's still sustaining these buildings. It's still accessible, used, recycled. And throughout the centuries, they're still living in those same structures. This is the Torre de Donati family.
What you said earlier, I so agree with, and I really I use that phrase too when I'm guiding and I teach people about reading the city. You are so correct about that the most important thing when you go to a city is to learn how do you look through the layers, just even if you're not an expert. So what are your tips for people when they're trying to read the city in Florence?
Well, go on a tour. Go on a tour. And, you know, one of the things that I really like about my job is when people write to me or contact me again or give me a phone call and say, oh, Elisabetta, we went to Pistoia, we went to see, I don't know, our family house here, there, or we went to Lucca. And guess what? While we were walking, we understood that that was a tower. We managed to understand the paintings and so forth. And, you know, go on a tour, but it's also to learn those elements that you will see somehow repeated in the various cities. And it's about people, you know, when you visit places, even though you're referring to this elliptical tower is of the 6th, 7th century, you are referring to people who built it, people who were housed in it, and so forth. This tower, Torre della Pagliazza, was built when Florence was under Byzantine domination. Below it, there's Roman thermal baths. You know, those layers that we're talking about. In the 1200s, it will become a woman's prison. Today, it's a hotel. So that repetition on that use and that continuity that we find in these cities is, especially in moments, historical moments like this, so consoling, because wars, pandemics, etc. Look at it. It's all still here, being used, lived in, etc. Isn't that beautiful?
Gorgeous.
It's a sense of So
really when we're looking at these buildings that don't have the rough stone walls, the ones on the opposite side would be the same. They just basically have wallpaper on them, more or less.
yeah, because, you know, fashion, let me show you this little detail. Fashions change, you know, throughout the centuries. Oh, we don't like the stone. I mean, just look at this little detail. And the nice thing of Florence is they're slowly unveiling this. Look.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's lovely.
So they're slowly unveiling, and also here. And this is, it gives so much more depth and there's so much more beauty. Look at that arch. Okay, tower house.
Yep, there you go.
No?
Yep,
and
you can see it.
You have to, yeah. And it's all about reading. And I think in doing so, you get so much more out of your visit.
See, I also like what you just said too about fashion, because that is a very underestimated element in the development of cities. People think, oh, cities change for political reasons or whatever. No, a lot of it just has to do with fashion, right?
Yeah, it's aesthetics now. Or here's Klett. Can you see him?
Mm.
Okay.
Yes, I love Klett. That's what she's referring to, the stop sign there. He's a local artist from France, but lives in Florence.
Isn't he Belgian or something? But he lives in
French.
Florence, and
yeah.
And he's been authorized to decorate our road signs, which can be quite cheeky at times. By the way, I didn't go to Ghiberti's door, did I? We just zipped through. But this is the tower of the Ghiberti family. Wait, let me show it to you. So Lorenzo Ghiberti, who's responsible for the Baptistry doors, was born and lived, and his family lived here. And then I think just after his death or something, they will sell it. But this used to be the tower of the Ghiberti family. And that's another thing that is so interesting, because you walk through these cities and you think, especially cities like Florence, where in this section of town, hardly anything, well, very little has changed. You think, and this is what I really adore, is, I think if Michelangelo were thrown back here today, he would recognize this. He would know exactly where we are. He would recognize the buildings. He would recognize the towers. He wouldn't understand who we are with these masks, but boy, oh boy, would he know exactly where he is, because some things haven't really changed. Look at that. This is a bakery. You might remember this, Sarah. Mm-hmm. It's in front of Coin, the department store.
I'm so happy to see all of these department stores and shops have survived. That makes me very happy to see.
Yeah, look, this woman who is this store, which is arts, is still open.
I love that store.
I mean, yeah. A lot of the stores, well, some of the stores will be shut because of the restrictions, but a lot of the stores are still open. They're all struggling really hard, especially in this section, because as I mentioned, there's hardly any citizens here. There's not a lot of people who live here. So they're having a bit of a hard time, whereby in my neighborhood, 10 minutes away, you want to know the smell here? 10 minutes away.
Yes, I do.
There's much more activity than many more people. Okay, the smell here is that of tripe and lampredotto, and I can smell it through my mask. And this is one of the institutions in Florence. This is where you come at lunch to have your tripe and lampredotto sandwich. Okay, and the guys who own it are still here. It's always them, not here at the moment, but they're still here. And look, Sarah. Wait. Non andare via. Do you recognize him? Nuvoli.
Oh, it's ciao.
Aspetta, ti giro. Aspetta, A little interruption. Così vedi anche te, Sara. Te la ricordi?
Buongiorno, ciao da Seattle.
Sì. Ho capito.
Hai capito?
Ciao. Aspetta,
Aspetta, no, non ho girato. Aspetta, ho fatto un casino, vabbè.
È uguale.
Okay.
Ciao.
Ciao. So Elisabetta is pointing out this gentleman is one of the owners of one of our favorite holes in the wall that we like to hang out at.
We're going to follow him. And I went there last week. I was craving for a porchetta sandwich. And being that so many things are shut, I was like, where can I go? Because it has to be really good. It has to be the proper stuff. It can't be sliced with a machine, etc. It has to be hand cut. And so I tried going to Nuvoli and saw that he was open and ate 2 porchetta sandwiches.
Yeah. Is Verenzano closed?
Yeah.
Just past Verenzano. They're closed.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's
They're closed. Well, yeah, that's the best. And I was going to say, they live and they work a lot with tourists. So
yes, they do.
And they're shut.
I'm not. Oh, yeah. Perché no is shut. Look at that. Have they been shut a long time?
They're being shut. I think it's because of the restrictions that we're in now, in which if you're a bar, you can be open, and there being only gelateria. And traditionally, they do tend to shut. Usually, they shut for their own break in January, February, and usually by now they should be open. So I think it's the restrictions at the moment. And here we are at San Michele, the third massive building in the center of town. And San Michele, and look, this is Via Calzaioli. Think of the sea of people that we usually have to go through, you know.
I know.
I wouldn't be caught dead on this road normally, but look, now it's actually extremely pleasant. Okay, and this usually is extremely crowded. But look at that. And look, we're all wearing our masks, being good about things.
Man, I mean, I know this is all terrible, but some of the photos I've been seeing coming out of Florence and Rome just make me feel very jealous, honestly, like how beautiful to see the city like this.
Yeah. Here are the three crowned saints. These are all copies. And if I'm not mistaken, your favorite artist, am I right?
Yes.
Okay. And there he is, Donatello St. George.
We're losing your audio a little bit. Could you move the microphone a little closer to your mouth?
Can you hear me?
No, not very well.
Maybe it's the position. Maybe it's the wind.
It just sounds windy.
Oh, okay. Let me tuck in here.
Yeah. Oh, it is windy. That's why it sounds windy.
It is windy. So yeah. Wait. Let me try and get out of the wind. So
there you go.
San Michele, one of my favorite places in town. I love this church. And if you remember the history of this was first the market, the grain market of Florence. So you have to envision this building as only being the ground floor and these arches being open. So a covered open space. Then, because of the fire, they decide they have to rebuild. And when they decide to rebuild, and here we are in the early 1300s, they decide to add to the structure 2 floors. Okay, and the 2 upper floors will be a granary. This is known as the Granary Church of Florence. Then gradually, they will move the market elsewhere, shut the arches, and this will become a church. And why is this a church? Because in the 1290s, we have documents referring to... Now you're not going to hear me. Wait, sorry, I've deplugged myself. We have documents referring to a miraculous image within the market. So an image of the Virgin who did miracles. I never know how to say this properly, but anyways, a miraculous image. And because of the cult of this Virgin, then they decide gradually to transform everything into a church. To make a very long story short, the building will be associated to the guilds of Florence, so to the professional associations of Florence. And in fact, here you have the residence of the Wool Guild. Remember that Florence was a very powerful merchant city, and the Wool Guild was one of the more important guilds in town. And then let me show you something else, because this will give you a bit of nostalgia. So I'm backtracking. You go, oh, Elisabetta, I want to come. Here's the residence of the Butchers Guild. Okay. And the nostalgia. You recognize that?
No.
You see the 3 circles?
Yeah, I see.
That's the symbol. That's the symbol. Giorgio Vasari will be responsible for the first art academy, and he will adopt that as the symbol of the art academy. But those 3 circles are the symbol that Michelangelo would sculpt, or would sculpt on the marble blocks that he chose so as to identify them as these are mine. So Vasari will adopt that same symbol, and that is the symbol of the Academy of Florence.
Beautiful.
Do you want to come back?
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me get out of this area because it's a bit of a wind channel. Say goodbye to St. George. And I want to take you another place that is a bit unusual in this period, because usually you don't see it that way. By the way, just for the sake of it, here's St. Eustatius, patron saint of the furriers, the guys who work on horseshoes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Workers.
my joke is, it's always a bad joke. I always think when I look at these, I always think of those paintings of the 1700s of the tooth puller and of.
Yes, I was thinking the same thing. It looks like the Dentist Guild.
Yeah. But no, it isn't. And look, the very crowded city of Florence. Did I mention when we did that, when we met last year, that I was in Settignano? Did I mention that I had walked through the center and I had started crying when I reached Santa Maria Novella? There was a break in, the restriction loosened up a bit. I can't remember when we were in severe lockdown. And I came for a walk through the center. And by the time I reached Santa Maria Novella, I had these tears. I was more or less crying. I wasn't doing that, but you know when you have your tears and you're all teary. Because the thing that really impressed me was the silence. The silence of the city, which is so uncharacteristic with anything Italian.
Yeah.
Because we make noise, no?
Yeah.
We make a lot of noise, and it's extremely silent.
Even right now, I mean, normally at this time of year, Florence is cacophonous at 4 o'clock on a March.
Yeah. Here we are on Via Porta Rossa, and what I wanted to show you was this.
Whoa.
Exactly. And today there's one extra cart.
Wow.
This is
somebody had actually asked a few minutes ago, what about the San Lorenzo Market? Is that even there at all anymore?
Yeah. It is there. The food market is there because it's food. The leather section, I honestly don't know what these restrictions, because I haven't been there. But, these guys are here in San Lorenzo. I'm sure there's some stalls out there. Look at this. This is the new market. Mercato Nuovo, 1500s. This is where you would have vendors selling luxury goods. And it's a beautiful structure. This is what Porta Michele would have looked like in a way. The building we just left behind, only that would have been the 1200s, and here we are in the 1500s. By the way, above the ceiling, there's actually a massive chamber. So you can walk up there.
Oh.
And to reach there, you have that little door. See it? See the door?
Yeah, I've never noticed that ever.
Okay, climb up the stairs and go upstairs. And another thing I wanted to show you, which we usually can't see because this is usually packed with these carts. The tradition is to have your goods in carts. So it's 7 o'clock in the morning, you start hearing all this noise, and they're bringing all the carts in, and 6:30, 7 o'clock in the evening, they start taking them away. And this is usually chock-a-block full of carts. And now there's nothing. But what I wanted to show you, and if you've got a cute little kid, is this. You ever seen this?
No.
This is the Stone of Shame. And this is where they would punish the public punishment of vendors, people who were caught doing dodgy things in their affairs, or people who couldn't pay their debts, and that's where they were punished. And most of these markets do have some kind of public punishment place. And I wanted to show you the Porcellino, not H&M, but you know, there's no tourists. But look at the timing. A lot of you would have seen would have seen this statue. This is it's called the Porcellino, but it ain't a Porcellino. In Italian, Porcellino means piglet. This is a wild boar, and it's actually the third copy that is made of a statue by San Pietro Tacca, who's actually copying a Hellenistic marble statue that we have in the Uffizi. And it's a fountain, and the woman is touching the fountain.
Yeah,
Shame
I know.
on
I
her.
was just looking at that going, oh my gosh. The Florentines, they complain about the tourists being disrespectful.
Get off it! Oh, Pucci Pucci, get off the bloody statue. Mamma mia. I need to bring my badge out. Ciao bella. Come va? Aspetta.
Per te, ti aiuta Buona Pasqua, Buona Cristo.
Am I still here? Here, Buona Pasqua.
Come ti vedo io?
Vai, ciao. See, tradition wants it here. Tradition wants it here that if you pet the nose of the boar and you put a coin in his mouth, and the coin falls into the grate. Okay, you see the coins there? Tradition wants it that you will come back to Florence. The thing I like about the boar is that he's a cheap date in the sense that he will take, and usually when you use the little copper coins, it works. But look also at this. I mean, here it's usually full of people. Look at the details, look at the details. Va bene. Buona fortuna. Buona fortuna.
Elisabetta is getting hassled.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always getting
You know, that's so funny. I have never looked at those details because there's never
No?
space.
Also because this is a very dangerous place to be usually. Look. No? Look at that. And the woman was stepping on it.
Yeah.
Oh, God. The things we have to do. Look at that. The toad. Huh?
So the thing that it's a fountain is that the water just comes dripping out of its mouth like it's drooling,
Yeah.
right?
Allora, let's say there should be, I think that in origin there was more water coming out of his mouth because this was actually functional to the market. And the Medici had commissioned the original fountain to supply water for the people who were working in the market. So I would assume that there was a bit more coming out of his mouth, of his nozzle. And how are we with time, Sarah? Is it okay?
We're good. We got about 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Okay. So I'm going to go down to the bridge. There's the police. This section of town is one of the few sections of town where you see contemporary buildings. And that's due to the fact that this was heavily damaged in the Second World War. The Germans, as they're retreating from Italy, will decide in Florence to mine the bridges of Florence, so destroy all the bridges on Florence. But they do decide, or somehow it's decided, that Ponte Vecchio will be saved. It's still controversial how that happened. And in order to keep the bridge intact, they will mine the head of the bridge. So the two areas of town that immediately are at the head of the bridge. So this section where everything is contemporary, just a little note there. See that window celebrating the Virgin and John Paul, Pope John Paul. These weird things. Via del Capaccio. This is actually connecting to the Caput Aqua, the end of the aqueduct. The Roman aqueduct used to pass through here, and it used to end here. In fact, the name of this road is Via delle Terme, the Rome of the thermal baths. The road. Did I say the Rome?
I understood.
Yeah. Look at the stonework. Look at the precision of everything. Isn't it beautiful? These crazy Italians, these crazy Florentines. Okay. Look, here you have an interesting mishmash because you have old and new. In the sense that if I look at that, I'm clearly looking at medieval tower. But then if I look at that and that, I think I'm looking at, and this, I'm looking at post Second World War.
Yeah, and actually right next to you on your right-hand side, that's the Torre Guelfa, and right above you is my hotel room that I have stayed in probably months of my life.
Okay.
I know that little alley you're on very well because I know the cacophony it usually has.
So you know exactly where we are.
I do.
On Borgo Santissimi Apostoli. Okay. And this is all modern, Vicolo dell'Oro. And you have the Continental, and you have the Gallery Art. So a lot of these hotels, obviously most of them are shut. For example, the ones on the Ferragamo family, last year they chose to open one only in the city.
One thing I would note about a lot of this modern post-war architecture is you have to give the architects credit for really trying to do something modern, but also keeping the same scale and the same materials as the ancient. Yeah.
Well, that's also, well, today it's a forced requirement in the sense you're not allowed to paint the facade of a building however you want. It has to be coherent with the tones of the city. Look at that.
Wow, the light is just gorgeous today.
Keep on deplugging. Ponte Vecchio, the old bridge, the only bridge that survives. A bridge of the early 1300s, the only bridge that survives Second World War, floods, etc., and the pandemic. And here it is. Nostalgia, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Nostalgia, mamma mia, quanta nostalgia. Okay, these guys, the vendors are still here. Ponte Vecchio, since the second half of the 1500s, has been a bridge where you would have found goldsmiths, silversmiths, and so forth. And still today, that's the tradition on the bridge, and that's being reflected now. Okay, some shops are open. There's not a lot open on the bridge, but some are open.
I love how they each look like jewelry boxes when they close up.
Yeah,
so pretty.
yeah. Because, you know, the lovely thing of Ponte Vecchio is that this is what workshops used to look like. You know, and when you walk through here, and it's crowded, etc., you don't realize that this lower hinge comes up. That upper hinge, that upper thing comes down, and that's how they used to shut the shops. So this is medieval, this is workshops as they were in the 1500s. And there's this historical coherence on the bridge that we take for granted when we're walking through and not observing details. Observe details, leave your cameras at home.
Read the city.
Read the city. Look at the beauty of the workmanship. I mean, look at this. It is so beautiful. Look at that. And, oh, you can also look at that if you want. Okay, but look at that. Look at the workmanship. And Oops, sorry. And another little thing I want to show you is, tend to forget things with the camera. Here's the Vasari corridor. Little comment, theoretically, the Vasari corridor will be opened again in 2022, and we will be able to go from Palazzo Vecchio to Palazzo Pitti. The Vasari corridor was a private walkway that the Medici will commission to Giorgio Vasari in the 1560s to enable them, 1 kilometer long, to enable them to go from the city hall, Palazzo Vecchio, to Palazzo Pitti. And it's a symbol of power because those little windows are called oculi, eyes, and through them you can see but you're not seen. And you have to imagine the Medici, theoretically, the populace thinking, oh, the Medici are up there, they're looking at us, etc. This allowed them to be above our heads, to hear but not be heard, to see but not be seen, and so forth. And it's an extraordinary structure. Then, let me take you towards.
I'm so excited about them opening that. You know, of all the things, I've done almost everything in Florence, I think, but that is one thing I've never gotten to do. So can't wait for it to open.
I used to go in it quite a lot. And it was fascinating because also the collection of self-portraits of artists that went from the 1400s to current day. And this is also very beautiful. This is always part of the Vasari corridor. So the corridor is developing above us there. And the sequence of arches is so beautiful. Hardly ever, you know, now it's a bit crowded. This is crowded today, Sarah? Sarah, the city is crowded. No,
Can I just also say, Elisabetta, that this is, I think it's your first virtual tour, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're really good at this.
Yeah. Wait, I want to go a little bit further. Yeah, I'll do this only with you, Sarah.
But you're so good at this. Like, you're really good at making us feel like we're there.
Look. Now the sun's against us. But can you see the bridge? No, not really. Can you?
Yeah.
Okay, and there's the river Arno. Serenely. There, look. And when you came last time, we were up there. San Miniato.
Yeah, we were.
Can you see San Miniato?
Uh-huh.
And remember you asked me who's buried there? And I went in a little mental blank because I don't know why. When you asked me that question, I was thinking of one specific person, and God knows why the mind works like that. I was thinking of Giovanni Spadolini, who was a politician. I just couldn't remember his name, among other people. How's that? Look at the light. Look,
gorgeous.
Tourists. They do exist. Buongiorno. And let's go down this alley. Oh, by the way, next time you come, traffic has changed. It's no longer coming from there. Now it's coming from here.
Oh, nice. Lovely. Can't they just get rid of it altogether?
Yeah. Well, they've already done a lot, huh? I mean, the fact that the center is mainly pedestrian. I think it's one of the largest pedestrian areas in Europe, I think. This is one of my favorite alleys. So pretty. This is Ino. We used to have those yummy sandwiches.
Oh, yeah.
And you will recognize the back of the Uffizi. There. And here's Ora d'Aria, one of our Michelin-starred restaurants. Yum, yum, yum.
I'm sure you eat there all the time, right?
All the time, every day.
Time. You get takeout in the evening.
Yeah, I actually do take away with them. Yeah, sure. Here's the Accademia dei Georgofili. And you remember this olive tree in memory of the people who died, the 5 people who died in the 1990s as a result of the terrible mafia bomb. And can you see the crowds here? You see the line is starting here for people trying to collect tickets for the Uffizi.
Mm-hmm.
Look at this.
Is it even open? No, it's not, right?
Nope. It's it depends on, we're color coded somehow. We have color coding in our restrictions. And so it depends on that. And at the moment, museums are shut. Look at that. The Piazzale degli Uffizi. And here are the offices of Florence, commissioned by Cosimo I to become an administrative center for the city. But also you would have had workshop. And today, one of the most important galleries in the world for Renaissance art. I know you, Sarah, don't like the Uffizi much.
I do.
Uffizi.
I do. I love the Uffizi. It's just that the
hassle
crowds.
of getting in.
Yeah, it's the crowds that.
I think the getting in is a punishment.
Yeah.
It's like you have to be punished, and then once you're upstairs, you find redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I love it as a museum, and actually, compared to like the Vatican Museum, it's not nearly as difficult to get in. So.
Yeah. And look at it. I'm walking where we usually stand in line. And cheeky little joke. Wait. There's the stairs. One of the custodians. The custodians are still in there. Ciao. Sono io. Sto facendo vedere la scalinata vuota degli Uffizi alla mia collega americana.
Gosh.
Look at that. Buongiorno, buonasera. Look at that. No, prego. Sono io. Come entro? Che gentile, grazie. Guarda che bello. Look at that. Vedere lì un attimo, che avete aperto tutto? Sì. Look at this.
Elisabetta, I've lost you. I think that the walls of the Uffizi are keeping your cell phone out. All right, you guys, I think we've lost Elisabetta for just a minute or two, so we'll probably get her back in just a second.
Oh,
we lost you.
yeah. Okay, did you see that inside?
Yes, I did, and that's really, you're sideways again. You're sideways.
Yeah, I know. So what'd you say? There.
There we go.
And then there. Am I straight?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, you're good now.
Okay. Okay. Isn't that exciting? We went into
That was really cool.
Sweet.
Okay, we've got like another minute or two before I need to scoot. So
okay. Piazza la Signoria. You need to see this.
Yes. Honestly, I could just do this all day with you. This is so wonderful. I kind of wish I hadn't planned something at 9.
I just wanted to show you this. I mean,
why is there a dead tree in the middle of the piazza?
That's what I kept the secret for you. Sarah has to see this.
What? Just what?
It's a 22-meter tree connected somehow to Dante. I've read the Tree of Verses, the Tree of Paradise, etc. And it's connected to this the Dante celebrations. My naughty joke is, David ain't looking. Yeah, that's really enough. No? And here we are.
I don't blame him.
Yeah, neither do I. Here we are in Piazza della Signoria, Palazzo Vecchio, the fountain, Neptune.
Neptune is averting his eyes also.
Yeah. Everyone's averting their eyes. I mean, even Medusa has her eyes shut. And there you have the open air museum underneath the Loggia dei Lanzi. The custodians are there every day. And shall we finish inside Palazzo Vecchio?
Yeah, sure. That sounds good.
Very fancy people without this. Huh?
Yeah.
As very fancy people do. Let's go inside the palace and we finish it there. Okay, all fancy visitors would have had the privilege of coming here because, you know, this is the City Hall of Florence, the Medici residence, the 1500s for a while, and the political center of town. And there you have it. And with this, and not the tree, there.
Wow. Oh, that view right there is really.
This is one of my favorites.
And normally you can't get that point of view because you're completely being mowed down by people. So, wow, that's glorious. Well, my friend, turn the camera around so we can also see you and Celeste. There we go.
There's me. Wait, I am in the palazzo.
You're looking very windblown.
This is, you know, you always want to put a hammock here in summer. This is a hammock place. Because
Elisabetta, this is. Oh, well, yeah, why don't you scoot over out of the wind so we can hear you? We can't hear you.
There you go. Here.
Yeah.
This connection here.
This has been an absolute delight. You are so good at this, like doing a virtual tour. Like, seriously, you're really good at this. So I think you should do this again. You are wonderful.
No, I mean, I'll do them with you, Sarah.
All right.
You know, you are probably the only person. Wait, I'm fiddling around. You're probably the only person who can convince me to do these things. Also, because I see you, I, you know, it's as if I'm going around with you, and I know that's kind of. I know
that this is lovely for the people watching, but for me, it's totally selfish because I'm like, I want to hang out with Elisabetta in Florence today, so I'm going to do that from my living room, you know, in my sweatshirt. So it has been an absolute delight.
What can we say?
What we can say is, I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about what you and Celeste are doing with Unusual Tourist.
So, well, you know, I collaborate with the Unusual Tourist. I have my own thing, which is Florence City Tour. And, but I have been collaborating a lot with the Unusual Tourist because obviously we do tend to work together. And in this time frame, what we've been doing is both in the city, me with my thing, and the Unusual Tourist, trying to come up with different ideas and work more on the concept of a bubble, a private, safe way of traveling rather than other ways. The Unusual Tourist does, and it is connected to private customized tours. That's what it does, and that's what I do as Florence City Tour. So we've been revisiting, redesigning, trying to add things and create even more of that concept of the private bubble. We've done something actually quite nice, which I'm very happy about, which is we've created the Unusual Tourist Club. And we've done that before Christmas. And what we've done there is the members of the club will have, it's not everyone can go in, it's on invitation and so forth. But they have access to discounts that are given by our friends who are producers of wine, of oil, of truffle, etc. And in this way, we've tried to keep connected with them, connect with our clients, give benefits to everyone in a way. So obviously, the producers benefit because people do go and see their websites and go and buy off their websites. And the members of the Unusual Tourist Club get discounts. Plus, we're going to do that with my tours. We're going to do that with the tours that we propose as Unusual Tourist. And we're going to put in hotels and stuff like that. And it was a way of keeping things alive and also helping the community in our community by giving access. And on that regard, if anyone who's following or you yourself want to become a member of the club, we would like to give you access and give your followers access. They send us an email or go to the website and just put your name as reference. Okay. Then, you know,
Excellent. All right. So your guys' website is Unusual Tourist, and then her website is Florence City Tour. And I highly recommend, if you're planning to go to Florence, she's worth every penny to get a little bit of time hanging out with her, because she is like Wikipedia. And I am also going to collaborate with her. She is. I'm going to collaborate with her on my 1-week tours that we're going to be doing next year in Florence. So you'll get to hang out with her in person if you want to come traveling with me, because we usually hang out when I'm in Florence anyway.
Yeah,
so,
we do.
One other thing I wanted to mention for those of you who watch this was such a top-notch walking tour. If you guys would like to leave Elisabetta a tip, which you might want to, you are welcome to send it to my PayPal, sarahinitalia@yahoo.com, and I will forward her any tips that come into my PayPal account. So please, if you have enjoyed this, remember all of us are out of work, and I would love to be able to send her some beer money, right?
Vino.
Okay, so
Vino
if you'd like to send her money to go buy her a glass of wine and a porchetta sandwich, please just go ahead and send money to my PayPal account, and I'll collect all of the tips and then forward them to her if you would like to do that. So again, thank you so much, my friend. You are absolutely magnificent, and what a beautiful day to be walking around Florence. It's been really fun.
You take care, Sarah, and I hope to see you really, really soon.
Me too. Okay. Mwah. Thank you so much, and thank you to Celeste also for hanging out with us today.
Okay, cool. Okay.
All right. Ciao, so thanks, everybody. Tomorrow, just programming note real quick before we go. Tomorrow, I'm going to be online again at 10 o'clock in the morning Pacific time with Roberto Becchi. We're going to do a live Florence versus Siena slideshow. So we'll see which city wins. Okay. All right. Ciao, ciao, ciao.
Ciao.